Bottoms up. This is the focus group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Thanks for joining us, as many of you have for the last 15 years. 15 years.
You changed that number.
It was 2008, wasn't it?
9 was really probably...
8, though. We were on XM.
Oh, you're right. 8 was the Frau and
I know,
the
it's
rulers.
all very fuzzy, John. Very fuzzy math for you. It's very difficult. So you and someone else, one of our listeners, I think it was Bob, sent me a note saying, is it 14 or 15? You and John go back and forth. That's part of the shtick.
Yeah, and speaking of longtime viewers and listeners, thank you, Paul and Mass, for your suggestion that I sit a little further back from the camera, because Tim's like, yeah, you're getting a little Kim Jong-il-ish there.
Yeah, you're right in there. Hello.
Hello.
You can't say that anymore. So it's we are the Focus Group. We're here every Wednesday. Our show releases at 1 p.m. East through our stream at YouTube and Facebook Live. And but you can find us anywhere, whether you have Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or any of the other services.
Spotify, Pandora.
Amazon, blah, blah, blah. Comcast, even if you say.
Yeah, that's true.
Up. So anyway, so thanks for joining us. We've got, as the show runs, we've got Caught My Eye segment after John and I catch up on some banter. And then we have our sponsor, Deep Discount. It's Criterion Month. And John will explain that when we get to there, because he has some, stay tuned, because he's got some discs to give away with his game, Pick That Flick. We take a quick break. We have our business birthday, and then we have a shop talk, which is related to dread, or the lumping effect of, if you have a goal and you have improved, but you didn't hit the goal, do you get discouraged or not? I think that's my Cliff Notes version of
that. That's not a bad Cliff Note. I like that.
I have a quick question for you, John.
Yes.
So I went to the store to go looking for 3 different places down here. I'm finding my breaking point with Delaware. Not a lot down here at the beach. So I went looking for thumbtacks.
Now, I would have gone to a hardware store.
Well, that was a mistake then, I guess. So I went to CVS first.
Okay. Which they should have had them in the supply section.
And stationary, kids going back to school, right? The whole deal. So I asked the woman, and she looked at me. She said, to plug in your electrical stuff. I said, no, a thumbtack, a push pin, thumbtack or push pin.
Yeah.
She said, I've never heard of that. I said, it's a thumbtack. And some old guy next to me starts giggling. He goes, these young kids. I said, a thumbtack, well, where would it be? She's confused as to where it would be. I said, well, usually it would be in stationery with staplers and, pens and pencils and tape. No, didn't have such a thing. So then I went to Bed Bath & Beyonce over there, Bed Bath & Beyond. Same sort of thing. I asked somebody about thumbtacks. Like I had, maybe they call them something different here. I don't know. But anyway, they didn't have them. And one older woman, though, behind the counter did laugh and says, no, we don't carry those. And then I had gone to a little stationery store in town, which I didn't expect would have them, but I thought, while I'm here, I'll stop in. I got a parking spot. So I could not get thumbtacks. So I had to ask Richard to bring thumbtacks down from Philadelphia. Might be a business down here in Delaware.
Do you guys have a Staples down there?
We do, but you'd have a better chance getting into the Eiffel Tower on Bastille Day than you would getting into the Staples here. It's a zoo.
Where is it really?
Oh, my God. It's... all of Route 1 here, they've ruined. The county is actually ruined southern Delaware. So to try to do anything out on the highway, out on Route 1, is just 6 miles is about 45 minutes.
So you actually make your store decisions based on left-hand, right-hand turns. Do you have to go out to the main road, right?
Exactly. Or if when we have company or something, I will go out 7:30 in the morning. 7:30 is too late. But 6:30, 7 o'clock at the grocery. And it's funny because all the locals are there running through before all the Teresas come to shop. So, yeah, the grocery stores are open. So I will do that. But otherwise, if you have to go... When we first moved here, I didn't understand it because we were constantly going out to Lowe's or to Home Depot. And people are like, you don't do that. You got to pick your times to do that. But we needed things. So anyway, I just didn't think a thumbtack would be so tough.
No, no. You know, Tim, the minute you said it, I had a vision in my head of a little piece of cardboard where the tacks would be in rows. I think it used to be 6 or 7 across and about 12 down, and then it was in plastic and would hang. And you would go and buy a bunch of thumbtacks, and you would use those to hang up things on the corkboard or on a wall that like a plastic. Are you doing this for Matt's art show?
Yeah, and I'm guessing that's why these things don't exist anymore, right? People use whiteboards or they use screens. I don't know. I'm wondering if it's going the way of the Rolodex.
I would like to propose that the focus group do an in-depth show on thumbtacks. We could find out who manufactures them. Do you think there's a manufacturer in the United States?
Oh yeah, I'm sure of it. Well, it could be the Chinese. I'm sure of it though. I'm sure there's a thumbtack manufacturer. Or even the push pins I wanted. Even because they used to come in white. They'd have a green top, a white top, a blue top, and that's when they got fancy. Usually they were just a white top or something. But I just thought I was so aggravated when I got home. That and I had some woman in a Tesla riding my ass. I must slam the brakes on ever hit me get a new car. She was a moron. The problem with these electric cars are very quick.
Yes, they are. The torque, good
right,
torque.
And the owners get very impatient with the other cars. I should have sideswiped her. Anyway, she's gonna go around me. But
that's we were visiting Bob's mom recently, and we drove her car, which she doesn't drive anymore. She has a Volvo sedan, and we drove that to a restaurant with her, and Bob was driving, and he's used to our VW wagon. I did one of those things where I whiplash in the back seat, and the Volvo has such a sensitive gas pedal.
right.
I imagine the electrics are like that too. It depends on the car, right? Like the
Right.
minute you hit that thing, it's off.
Yeah. So anyway, well, so that was life down here. So Mr. Nash, without further ado, what caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Well, as we head into fall, summer's gone, but summer blockbuster movies, where many of us remember as kids spending hours with buckets of popcorn and checking things out. And one of my favorites of all time, of course, was Star Wars. And I came across an article that I was instantly fascinated by. And Mark Hamill has been posting on Twitter and Instagram pictures of some of the props that he accidentally kept
That's
from
funny.
some of the Star Wars movies. So it says, the headline reads, Mark Hamill has been gradually revealing all the props he's kept from Star Wars. He's been tweeting the props he permanently borrowed from the sets of various Star Wars movies. When asked what the most valuable Star Wars related thing that's in his possession, of course, the actor wrote, or Mark Hamill wrote, my boots from the very first film. So through most of Star Wars, Luke has these kind of boot things that go up his calf. Don't know their value because I'd never sell them. So then he begins to outline other things he's taken. And if you're watching on YouTube, I have a group of images which are 4 things that he's taken. And the first one is the helmet, the stormtrooper helmet that he wore as a disguise when he was in the Death Star rescuing Princess Leia. He also took an Imperial officer's cap, which he calls an Imperial Death Star employee cap.
It's looks like a Volkswagen worker's cap.
Yes, it's black and it's very kind of severe and has a little silver thing on the front. And then he took 1 pair of C-3PO hands and 1 pair of C-3PO feet for his son Nathan. And the picture that we show is the little boy in these with the enormous hands and feet, because these were what Anthony Daniels, the actor who portrays C-3PO, would wear on set. And then he says, and 1 prop rubber frog from Return of the Jedi. Now, I looked this one up, and I don't remember the creature's name, but this rubber prop that we're showing was sitting in a bowl of water next to that big, humongous slug, Jabba the Hutt. And at one point, he picks this thing up and eats it, or he plays like he eats it because Jabba was actually a puppet. He doesn't have, and that was from Return of the Jedi. He doesn't have any props from The Empire Strikes Back, which kind of surprised me because it's my favorite movie of all time. for the Star Wars series, besides memories of a fractured nose. And he kept nothing from the new sequel movies, Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. And the writer snarkily says, I get why Hamill wouldn't want anything from Episode 9, which is The Rise of Skywalker, but he should have at least kept a porg. And porgs were in the new movies. They're these little bird things, whatever. But I know it's a simple caught my eye, but I thought it was kind of amusing because I've often wondered, Bob's asked me this too, like studios can't keep this stuff forever. So, and they're props. They're meant to make a movie, right?
But with something as valuable as Star Wars, I'm shocked. Maybe because he's a big star, they allowed him to take stuff. But I'm wondering if that's common, if people could just take things. I know they take wardrobe, but
yes.
I mean, these are costumes. This is different, right? This is different than I'm going to take the denim jacket you had me wear.
Well, okay, so you bring up a great point. Helmet, hat, and the C-3PO hands and feet, they had they cast those. So they actually had 50, 60, 70 Stormtrooper helmets. They had about 20 to 50 or 20 to 30 of those Imperial officer hats and probably about 7 to 8 sets of the C-3PO hands and feet. And actually, as each movie was made, they often redid the props, like the hands and the feet and the Stormtrooper thing, just to have fresh ones, and they would tweak the design a little bit. It's like Darth Vader's helmet. If you look at the first movie, Star Wars, his helmet was sort of one way, and it's shiny. By the time they got to Return of the Jedi, they had that thing nailed. I mean, it was perfectly sheened, the whole bit. So. And, I don't think Lucas cared too much because, again, if you make 50 or 60 or 70 Stormtrooper outfits, one helmet's not going to make too much of a difference, right?
Yeah. I just think that the franchise is so valuable.
Now it is, yeah.
That you would think that they keep that stuff now. Maybe that's why I couldn't take anything. Maybe things were under a little
from
more.
the new one, correct.
Right, a little more lock and key. So that's a good one. Mine, of course, could not be any different. We had a story a couple weeks ago about a school, I believe it was in Alaska, that had served kids floor
sealant.
Yeah, floor or antifreeze or anything.
No, it's floor sealant
for
as milk.
Right, as milk, exactly. And so this story popped up. The headline is, a 93-year-old California assisted living resident died after she was served dishwashing liquid instead of juice.
Oh, my God.
So it says one woman died and 2 others were hospitalized after they were served dishwashing liquid instead of juice at their California assisted living facility last week. Police responded to the Atria Park, which is an assisted living facility in San Mateo, California, to where the residents were reportedly poisoned. 3 residents were hospitalized after ingesting the toxic chemicals, and they said one of the residents, a 93-year-old woman, was pronounced dead at the scene. On the way to the hospital. And so to me, this whole thing sounds fishy. My question would be, because this wasn't in the article, my question would be, how was the dish soap stored or packaged? We all know what dish soap looks like, whether it's something as blue as dawn or it's as white as the ivory stuff or whatever. The consistency of that is nothing like juice. And so to me, I find this all very suspect sometimes, that how do you pour 3 glasses of detergent and give it to people to drink? So I
don't know, but before you go further, let me tell you how stupid I am, or what I thought this was actually about.
What did you think it was?
You send the headline. So Tim sends me some pictures and a headline, and the rest is a surprise for all of you and me too. And the headline said, bottoms up, enjoy this glass of dawn. So then he sends a picture of a nursing home at dawn or sunset. I thought it was dawn. And above it is a picture of a hand with a white glass, which I did not think anything was in the glass. And I thought, are people serving, like, have a taste of the dawn? The dawn.
The dawn. That was very nice of you.
Nothing in the glass, but here's the dawn. No, it's dishwashing detergent. We use Dawn, by the way, and I'm looking at it right across from me, and it's on the sink. It's blue. I've seen the clear stuff, but not that often. So how do you get this screwed up?
Not only that, but when you pour that stuff, it's very thick. It's almost like it's a little bit frozen.
Viscous is the word we use.
The word we use. So I like that. So you're right. So it's like oil almost. So how do you get that confused with juice? You don't. And so to me, these stories just seem to be, it's like all the Russians that seem to be falling out of windows. Did you see the latest one last week? The head of Luck Oil,
one of
who was against the war.
Big oil oligarchs who was critical Oh, he fell out a window.
A lot of window falling. Got to get the windows fixed in Moscow.
Bad hinges, bad glass over there in the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah. So that. So anyway, that was the. They all the employees that were involved were all suspended upon further investigation.
I would hope, right? I mean, it's just, Tim, it really is weird because it was 2 or 3 weeks ago that you did the floor sealant thing.
Yeah.
And I remember listening to the show after we recorded it and we posted, and I remember listening to it with Bob, and Bob's like, I've smelled that stuff
Oh
before.
my God. It's horrible.
It unless it was sitting open for hours and hours and every bit of odor evaporated, which is almost impossible, how would you not know?
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Crazy. So those were our caught my eyes. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Deep Discount's been a partner of ours here on the Focus Group, and we appreciate you supporting them by going to focusgroupradio.com and clicking on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away. The month of September, which we're in now, is Criterion Month, and we were given a whole bunch of discs to give away, so we're reenacting or reinvigorating our Pick That Flick that many of you remember from John's Pick That Flick on our old show. And John's going to take it away and tell you how you can win a couple of these Criterion discs along the way. So
Thank you, Mr. Tim. Criterion Collection Month on the Focus Group is one of our favorite times because we get to give away a whole box of movies that was sent to me by Sarah from Criterion Collection. Thank you, Sarah. The only hint I will give to the game we're about to play is that the audio clues that I've selected come from movies that are currently in the Criterion Collection. Now, there's a lot in there, so good luck with that. But anyway, here's what we do. I'm going to play an audio clue from a movie. It's about 9 to 14 seconds long, roughly. If you know the name of the movie that this came from, send your guess to letters@focusgroupradio.com. That's letters@focusgroupradio.com. If it's an email that you don't use too often, you might want to include your mailing address if you win and I can't get in touch with you. I only use the addresses, by the way, to send the discs. But if it's one you use frequently, you just send the guess and I'll let you know you won. You could always send me your address later. And if you're time shifting, as most of us do with our shows these days, don't hesitate to send a clue in. Just because it's a week or two behind, don't think that everybody got it. It's surprisingly, the game is harder than you think, and a lot of people don't get it. So without further ado, I'm going to play for you the clue for this week. This is an audio clue. Again, if you know the name of the movie, just send us your guess.
Well, what about it? The knife this fine, upright boy admitted buying the night of the killing. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's talk about it. Let's get it in here and look at it. I'd like to see it again, Mr. Foreman.
We all saw what it looks like. Why do we have to see it again?
The gentleman has a right to see exhibits and evidence.
All right. So, again, that's only hint. It's a movie that's in the Criterion Collection. I'm going to play it one more time. And if you know the name of the movie this came from, drop your guess to letters@focusgroupradio.com. Here we go.
Well, what about it? The knife this fine, upright boy admitted buying the night of the killing. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's talk about it. Let's get it in here and look at it. I'd like to see it again, Mr. Foreman.
We all saw what it looks like. Why do we have to see it again?
The gentleman has a right to see exhibits and evidence.
All right, there you go. So we want to thank Deep Discount and Criterion Collection for allowing us to do the game this month. They have an incredible, Tim and I call the Criterion Collection the gold standard. You know, they rescan films, they clean up the audio, they drop an amazing extra bonus content, director's interviews. So there you go. So if you are just tuning in, which is unlikely if you're time shifting, letters@focusgroupradio.com with the name of the movie, if you know the name that clue came from. We do have a new release this week, and that is a movie I had not heard of, but I really love the title, and I feel like this movie is from a different time almost. It's called Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris on Blu-ray, and it's the humorously heartwarming tale about a London house cleaner, Ada Harris, played by Leslie Manville, who thinks her lonely life might turn around if she can become the owner of a Christian Dior gown. Saying goodbye to friends like Archie, Jason Isaacs won't be easy, and neither will be winning over elite people in Paris, from Madame Colbert, Isabelle Huppert, to idealistic accountant Andre Lucas Bravo. But Ada's irrepressible charm just might end up saving the whole House of Dior in this uplifting story of how an ordinary woman becomes an extraordinary inspiration by daring to follow her dreams. So Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. And
Right.
it's funny with movies, sometimes things come under the radar. I like the look of the packaging. I like the idea of it. And I think I'm going to definitely pick it up. But that is the new release this week.
When I say when you do look at the packaging, though, I had to check the dates because it did look like I thought it was this old. It
Did
almost
you do
looks
the
like
same thing I did?
like the Mrs. Maisels or something,
Yes, it has that feel. I had to look and I said, yeah, it's released in 2022. It was a brand new movie. It's not a re-release or something. Original year 2022. So yeah,
Wow.
Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. So if you're late to this, rewind a bit. You could pick that flick and guess the name of the movie based on the audio clue we played earlier. We want to thank everybody at Deep Discount and the Criterion Collection for making Criterion Month possible. We are going to take a quick break, and when we return, we have a business birthday and a shop talk, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with Mr. John T. Nash. And thanks again to our friends at Deep Discount. It is Criterion Month, so you get your prizes. We have a business birthday today, and this is another one, John, that I had to hunt down for, but I didn't know if you recognize this guy. So when we
I love this one. I did not recognize it, and I love it.
either.
But go ahead.
Sure. So let's head to our business birthday.
Hold on.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
So born September 7th, 1840, is Luther Childs Crowell, Crowell. He was an inventor, I guess is the best way of putting it. He died at the early age of 63 in 1903. But he's known to have over 280 patents. And so he started off life very humbly, though, grew up in Cape Cod, very much a Cape Codder, as he called himself, he and his family, in West Dennis is where they were living for
West
some time.
Dennis?
Yeah. West Dennis and South Yarmouth is where his mom and dad came
so
from.
it was Cape in Massachusetts, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So he said by the time he was 17, he had not completed he had not only completed the courses of the local school, but also attended an academy. And he thought he was studying medicine and thought maybe he'd be a physician. But he also had a real inkling and an intense interest in aeronautics. So he had moved to Boston in 1862, and he worked on a patent for something called an Ariel machine, Aerial. Do you know what that is?
An aerial
Machine.
Well-
I had no idea what it was. I had to look it up.
Okay.
Do you know what? Do you have any idea?
No.
Any thought? Any guess?
But it's an aerial. Was it possibly a helicopter or a plane?
Yeah. How'd you know? So
Ariel, A-E-I.
You're
Okay.
like you're like what was that show? I've Got a Secret.
Yeah, but Tim, I totally thought that your
What's
Dawn
my line?
thing.
What's my line? That's it. What's my
Yeah,
line?
I totally thought your Dawn thing was a glass of the Dawn, like an imaginary "Have a great day," but it was
I
dishwashing.
know, but this
so,
is funny because Ariel. So he had devised this, and he actually has a patent for it. But he devised this flying machine, which did not have any wings, and it just had two propellers that went opposite one another. And he thought it could lift, and he had some backing of a number of investors, but the hot air balloons were coming out and the Zeppelins were coming out.
okay.
And so there was far more interest in that than any sort of other flying aircraft. So people got tired of waiting for him to do whatever he was going to do with this aerial machine, and he lost all of his backing, all of his financial backing.
Okay. Wow.
So, but he did actually have one of the earlier patents for what we now would know of as a helicopter. So he turned his attention to developing another idea he had, which was a suggestion for him to do, and that was a machine to make paper bags. And he received a patent for that in 1867. They said he devised the square bottom paper bag 5 years later, after he did the regular paper bag, he did a square bottom paper bag, which is still universally used today, and it's the only machine currently that still makes these. Is the one he developed back in 1867. And there were a number of companies that had infringed on his patent, and rather than getting into all kinds of arguments with them back and forth, he had just ended up taking a buyout from all of them and guaranteed employment for as long as he wanted. So he made
Well,
a
they
significant
guaranteed
amount of
him
money.
employment, right?
Yeah, because other companies, they said, what had happened with the improvement of the paper bag. I laughed when I read this, but they essentially said that they were really credited with helping retail grow within the U.S. They said the flat bottom paper bag was the most effective innovation in speeding up American retail sales within a few years of its introduction. So they felt having this sack or bag, if somebody came into a store, easier to carry stuff, and so people would buy more, I guess, if they didn't bring their own bags.
So that's fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, so it's funny how these things,
Evolve,
things, evolve, exactly. So after he did the paper bag, he also worked on a number of other paper folding types of machinery. One of them actually for newspapers. So how newspaper sheets are folded and how newspapers are folded up and delivered. He also invented that machine, that mechanism. He, as I said, had 280 different patents within the printing area. He was one of them for printing on both sides, one of them for a rotary printing mechanism, one was a cutting and folding mechanism we talked about without tape, one was sheet piling, another one was a machine for pasting labels on bottles.
Yeah.
And at the time of his death, he was working on a machine that would wrap and mail packages. So if you bought something, this machine, you would just put it in the machine, it would wrap it and send it. And then he did have the helicopter patent as well for the Ariel machine. So he was very much somebody, obviously, that liked to tinker, and to have 280 patents, I think that's just amazing. This is more than most people, obviously. Most people, probably more than 99.9% of people. They said
I don't have one patent.
No.
Neither do you.
No, he said, and I don't plan to get one, I guess. They said he was a glorified Cape Codder. He despised shams and expressed himself freely and fearlessly in all matters. So that's what he's remembered for, the square bottom paper bag.
Not a bad thing to remember. But this helicopter thing, this aerial thing, so he was technically years ahead of like Sikorsky and all the others, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. So when you look at this machine he built, it's almost like a biplane, but there's no wings, and it has these inside propellers. Remember when you were a little kid and we had those rockets, you would take the propeller and...
Yeah.
So it was almost that sort of, I'm not doing it perfect justice, but if you remember one of those, and you say you would have two propellers on each end. And so as helicopters, right, the helicopters have the two different propellers. So
the tail and then the one above the compartment, yeah.
Yeah, so whatever patent he got, it was obviously being used, but he never ever could get the financing or the funding to continue working on the helicopter. So that's why the company he was working for, that's why he was doing all this paper improvements.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and I often wonder about a lot of these because, things that are just so obvious, like putting a label on a bottle or putting something on a package. I mean, somebody had to invent that stuff, right? So.
Or things like thumbtacks, right? Sorry, if you're new to the show, go back. You're going to hear all about thumbtacks.
You need thumbtacks. So that was our business birthday. On our shop talk, as we mentioned right before our break, the headline is "Want to achieve your biggest long-term goals? Science says avoid the dreaded negative lumping effect." And they gave a scenario, or they gave an example of if you were in a company, or you either put it on yourself as a goal or your team as a goal to increase sales by 70% in a particular time frame, and at the end of the time frame you measure and say, "Oh, we were only up 67%." And they said a lot of times 67 is not 70, so people would feel disappointed. Rather than celebrating the fact that actually 67 is a decent number, and even though you didn't hit the 70, people should be happy with the progress they made. But what ends up happening is people seem to get deflated, and then they just view it as a failure. And so they call this the negative lumping effect. and which dismisses achievement when it falls short of a categorical reform, despite distinctions and improvement. And I was trying to think about this, and have you ever experienced this yourself, where you had a goal to say, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and maybe you only got A and B done, and were you defeated?
Yeah, all the time. When I was younger, and I kind of said that way because I've grown. I think I've grown smarter at goal adaptability. So another example they gave here was, let's say you wanted to save $1,000 in 2 months or 3 months, and you only hit 800. You're going to feel like you failed. But the fact of the matter is, if you turn around and look behind you, well, you didn't get the 1,000 you put the marker out there for, but you did save 800.
Right.
And that was something that they mentioned. I think it was like a 2-sentence thing towards the end of the article, which I thought summed it up perfectly. Let's see here. Looking forward. It's like as they said here, use your goals to inform your process. Use your goals to track your process and make smart course correction. And then, looking back, your success is absolute. So looking forward, your failure is relative.
Right.
Like I had this goal in mind. I was going to save 1,000, but I only saved 800. But looking back, your success is absolute. You did something. You dramatically grew your business, or you dramatically saved, or you helped 79 million people learn how to read or write. So
You
I
lost
think
10 pounds instead of 20. You still lost weight.
Exactly. And in fact, that they did give that example. They said, some people say, I want to lose 10 pounds in a month, which is highly doable. It's doable. But let's say you hit 8 or 8.5 that you lost. That's still an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I think that in business, this is the far more insidious thing, especially when you have teams of people, right? You have groups of people who are like, we're all going to move the ball here. And then they don't. And then there's the boss may not be happy, or he may not care. He may be like, we did a lot of great good. And in our personal lives, I think we set ourselves up for this kind of lumping effect all the time. Like, I'm going to purge, clean, do all this in 6 hours. 4 hours later, you're looking at a box of old letters and you didn't get anything done. The lumping effect takes effect, right?
This reminded me of, there was a story, and I thought of this example that I'm going to give. One of my rowing coaches, he had a very illustrious career of coaching college athletes, men and women, in rowing. And I said to him, did you prefer coaching men or women?
Interesting. I wonder why you asked that, by the way, but that's good.
What's that?
I wonder why were you just curious about the difference in gender?
Was because they're two different, for rowing teams, there is a different aspect to it, I think. And so he, without hesitation, said, I prefer coaching women. And I said, why? And he said, well, women enjoy the process more. He said they enjoy accomplishing something. They enjoy everything that goes with the sport, whether it's the camaraderie or it's hanging out with friends, it's doing whatever. He said men just want to win and be first.
Repeat that. Men just
want to win and be first.
Okay.
He said, so as a collective, he said, I would coach these women. And he gave me this example. He said, I had a men's crew that was very good. He said, they came in second on the final race. And rather than celebrating the fact that that was quite an accomplishment, they took their medals off and all threw them in the river, dropped them in the river.
Whoa.
Because they
Seriously?
were mad. Because they were mad they didn't get first. He said, on the other hand, I had a women's crew. He said they did not medal. He said in the final race, they were 5 out of 6 boats. He said it was a close race, but they were delighted. He said they came in off the water. They thought it was a great row. He goes, they didn't win any medals, but they celebrated that they competed. They celebrated they were the friends. They were having a good time. Wasn't that wonderful? He says there's a joy versus this angst between coaching women and coaching men. And I would observe that over the years, and I would watch. And it really was, the women were so much more about the process and enjoying it versus the guys that had this kind of cutthroat urge to win. And I thought it'd be something to look at, is, if I was doing a thesis of something of athletes, it would be something I would dig into and really study. But I did try to remember my own experiences and then watching this, and I really do think he was correct when that the women were far more realistic, like you said, about you're not gonna win all the time, right?
You
So
shared
enjoy being
something
out.
with me. One of our cross country trips, it might have been when we were taking a Beetle to Las Vegas. But you talked about your experience with rowing and with being on the team, and you told me this whole story about how you guys used to have, your coach used to have, were they inspirational speakers or sports psychologists in? And the idea was to get into each athlete's head about, like, why aren't you winning or why aren't you achieving? I was kind of fascinated by that.
Yeah, she was a Hungarian woman. She was a sports psychologist, and she worked for the East German. So that's how long it was. The East German athletic teams before the Olympics, and so she would take each of the teams through a scenario. And so we would, on Fridays before the races, she had this room prepared, and the room would go dark with lights, and she would have some sort of kind of the humming music or whatever on. And then she would have the coxswains get up, and she would walk us through how the race was going to go against George. She said, "Who are you racing this weekend?" We'd say, "Georgetown." She has to say, "Okay, we're at the starting line." And she would say, "Now here's how this whole race is going to unfold. And I want you to think about this tomorrow, and I want it in your head." And she was doing this as an experiment for herself as well, because she'd done it with these high,
pro athletes.
Pro athletes, and she thought, "Can I do it on a college or a amateur level?" And lo and behold, races that we probably should have never won, we won, because she had talked us through. Here's where you're going to make your sprint. Here's where you're going to raise the pressure. Here's where you're going, and walked us through the whole thing. And it was really a fascinating thing, because at first you think it's crazy. And our coach was an old Air Force guy, and we thought he would never go for this. He loved it. He'd get all,
Really?
Yeah, he thought it was the greatest thing. Maria Doros was her name, and I still remember her. But I do remember she said, a lot of this is in your mind, and you should walk yourself through things. It's like people tell you to walk yourself through a presentation.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you said, "Okay, here's how the presentation is going to go," but different than you being smart enough to say, "Here's everything I need to do." It was almost as if you sat down and talked to somebody, said, "Okay, John, here's how it's going to go tomorrow. You're going to arrive, and then it takes you through every step.
Well, you've actually brought some of that to our business. Tim and I have had some interesting, by necessity, business conversations with clients. One in particular, the only time in my career where I ever had to involve a litigator and a lawyer, or even pitching a business proposition, where I would be going through and I'd be doing my spiel, because Tim would say, "You take the lead. I'm going to be taking notes. I'll jump in." And then out of the blue, Tim would say, "What do you think of social media? Or what do you think of influencers?" And I would trip up, and I would come up with all these crazy bullshit answers. And then Tim would just say, "Well, what if you just said social media is another way of reaching the consumer? It's another form of media. Influencers, or that whole thing is, what is it? Word of mouth marketing."
Word of mouth marketing, yeah, that's all.
And also the
word of mouth.
And it's also, we've had it in our culture for years. An athlete like, Babe Ruth says, "Chew Wrigley spearmint gum." That's like an influencer, but it's not on TikTok or something. So I think you probably got that from your corporate stuff, because you've also had some intriguing training. You did the Disney thing, everything taught, everything speaks,
Yeah, everything
right?
speaks. The Disney school. I mean, I was fortunate that I did have a lot of that training, and a lot of it was so you could be kind of quick on your feet. Certainly 15 years of you and I, 14 years, or whatever, of you and I doing this show have also
oh, boy.
helps that as well. Certainly we're far more comfortable than we were, obviously.
I told the story recently to a friend of mine about the guest we had on. I got a PR pitch about an ad exec who wrote a book about his son who had passed away, but he made the son like a secret agent or something. I thought, oh, it's interesting, advertising. Guy comes in, and it was the top of the hour when we were on Sirius, and we had a 5-minute break of news that we could, and I went to the bathroom. And
one of the few times you ever went to the bathroom, because I always did. I should.
Yeah, it was one of the few times. You're right. So
you never
I
had
come
to
back
go. I would always run to the bathroom.
And Tim's chair was in this position in the OutQ studio that he saw everything, including the door opening. And he's just sitting. I had never seen him sit directly away from the mic, facing the door, just stares at me, neutral face, totally neutral. And I'm like, something's going on. I sit down. We start talking. Getting any information out of this guy, this guest of ours who wrote the book, was kind of like opening a can opener with a thumbtack. Let's use the thumbtack. It was the most torturous interview. He leaves. I think Katie might have been our producer at the time, or Sweet Caroline, and one of them. they're like, wow, guys, you did a great job. That was really hard. And then we go to break. And I said, and Tim goes, when you left, here's what happened. I start talking to him, and he says he has some kind of a condition where he doesn't like being asked direct questions.
He's on the spectrum. I don't like being asked direct questions. You're here for an interview. Where's your publicist? The problem with SiriusXM with some of those was that you had to fill the time. You couldn't because of the way it was, you had to fill that time, right? We couldn't now if we had something bad, we could either cut it out or move around or edit. You couldn't do that when you were live like that. We had a few of those crazy.
We had guests who were equally fantastic. Ron Reagan Jr.
Yeah.
West Coast time. Everything's set up. The PR department sets it all up. It's a Saturday. They get him on the phone. It's clear that he literally woke up, just woke up to answer the phone. They're like, by the way, you have this interview. Like a champ, though, he hopped on the mic and gave a fantastic interview. Unlike other people we'd call sometimes, like, no, we're not doing it, click.
Yeah. My favorite was the woman who came in, again, pushed by the publicist, to come in and talk about Super Bowl advertising.
I remember this.
And the Super Bowl was just over, right? And we said, what ads did you like? I didn't watch them. You just wrote a book.
She didn't watch
at me.
one.
I was like, why are we even doing this interview? Why aren't you and I writing books about this shit?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. I just laughed. I couldn't believe that one. That was when we cut that one short.
Oh,
we had enough to talk about.
Yes,
we could have moved on. I mean,
then
she lost
there
all
are
credibility.
Then there are the misfires, and this is, I don't know how this relates to the lumping effect.
Well, we're moving on.
Yeah, we moved on. Yeah, okay. But remember the Wilton Manor Pride down in Lauderdale?
Oh my God! But did we ever salvage a show?
We did. We did.
Okay.
We salvaged 1 hour of interviews, backed up by a repeat of something else. But they started serving us Long Island iced teas, and a drag queen dressed as Lucille Ball
in
came
a storm
through.
and a hurricane.
Hurricane came through,
and the kid from Cupcake in a little cupcake outfit.
Cupcake Wines, yeah.
I would like to find that interview again. I think he was.
I have
funny.
pictures from that, and we went back to the place we were staying, and we ordered pizza, and Tim was like, we were playing music. The next morning, Tim, you turned on the stereo in your room, which was left at the volume it was on the night before. It almost shattered
It
the
was
glass.
not loud enough for us that night. You were doing your gold frap. I've got a rocket. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The funny thing about that could have been one of those weekends where that would have been another one where if somebody had come with a camera with us, they just wouldn't have believed it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who picked us up forgot we were coming. Going
drove
the
wrong way home.
Somebody was shocked that he was even able to have the capacity to pick us up, and remember how big his eyes got? He picked you up? Wasn't seem to be in any shape when I saw him, 2 hours ago. Yeah, no,
he pulled up in some Cadillac car. We're driving away from the airport, and I'd only been to Lauderdale once or twice. And I said, "Is this the way to Lauderdale?"
I don't think this is right. You're like, I don't think this is right.
He drove over the median. He just did a hard left.
Ba-boom, ba-boom.
Tim's in the back seat being thrown around like a rag doll. Yeah. Remember, you couldn't even get out of the car. He parked so close to the
dumpster
that you couldn't even get out.
And then we never saw him again. He was supposed to be hosting us for the weekend. Never saw him.
Nope, that was it. Have a good weekend.
Just as well. Yeah, those shows happen.
Those shows, you kind of knew. Like some of the remotes.
Well, that one I knew was good. I don't like remotes.
No. Well, we had some good ones.
You do like them. I don't.
Yeah, but we've had good ones. We've had bad ones. More bad than good. Anyway, folks, we want to thank you for joining us. Welcome to September, and welcome to the official beginning of fall. Again, I want to remind you that it's Criterion Month here on the Focus Group. We want to thank Deep Discount and Criterion. And by the way, there is a new release, and it's called Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. And you can find that by going to our site, focusgroupradio.com, and clicking on the Deep Discount logo and starting your shopping spree. If you want to play the game, pick that flick review, rewind to the Critics' Choice, the Deep Discount segment, and you'll hear the audio clue. If you know the name of the movie that came from, drop me a line at letters@focusgroupradio.com, and if you win, you're going to get a Criterion movie. So we would like to remind you to not text and drive. Arrive alive. Thank you for spending time with us here on the Focus Group. Check out TFG Unbuttoned on Tuesdays. And everybody have a great week. We'll see you in the new one.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.